Hello, everyone. I'm going to put on my camera so you can all see me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to have you all here. Thank you for tuning in to How to Improve Your Writing in an Hour. So, we have a lot of information to go over in the next 60 minutes. So, I hope that you all are ready. And I hope that you're going to find something or all of it very valuable and helpful for you in your writing endeavors, whether they be creative, scholastic, or business related. So I've asked everybody to just give us a shout out and tell us who's all here in the chat and where you're from, and also what brought you here. What kind of projects are you working on? Are you writing a book? Are you in school, or is this business related? Just share and chat and let us all know what you're in here for. I see we got Michelle here from New Jersey, and we have Dorita writing a book. Very good. So yes, definitely. I hope that this will all be impactful. Hey, we have Vera here from Chicago. Welcome. She is a screenwriter, and she's a wonderful screenwriter, everyone. So I am going to go ahead, and occasionally I will tune in with my camera, but I'm going to minimize it so you can all see the slides better. All right, so there they are. As I said, welcome. And this is being brought to you here by Purple Inked. And what we do at Purple Inked is that we recognize that not everyone is a born writer, but we all have something very valuable to express. And through webinars like this one that you all are signed up and attending right now, and workshops and writing and editing services through Purple Inked, we help and we work with our clients to give you the tools and the support that you need to reach your writing goals. And I know quite a few of you, but there's some new faces, and so you all know a little bit about me. I am Neely Guyon. I am coming to you live from Virginia Beach, Virginia, where it's usually sunny and wonderful, but it's a little cloudy out there right now. But definitely, and I am the owner, editor, and writing coach behind Purple Inked, which I just told you what that's all about. And as you can see from all of the things that I've been involved in, I have more than 15 years of experience in communications, editing, and writing. So I've definitely been around for a while, and through all of the experiences in writing that I've done, I'm going to share with you tonight one of the secrets to becoming a great writer. So who knows what those secrets can be? I see someone here is writing from New Jersey. All right, so ready for this top secret to becoming a good writer? It's hard work. So there you have it. That is the end of our webinar. Thank you all for attending. Just kidding. Actually, I have a lot more to give you. But what I will say is that in this, as the great writer Norman Mailer once said, writing books is the closest men ever come to childbearing. And I have yet to experience childbirth, but I definitely know the pain that it comes in crafting a good story. I've written several short stories and articles and news articles and emails and news releases, and even, some of us struggle with those Instagram posts. So it's a lot of struggle in writing, but it definitely is hard work. But it definitely takes these three things to become a great writer. So by 7:30, you most likely are not going to be a great writer if you're not one already, but I'm definitely going to give you tools to improve your writing. And if you keep working at it, if you are committed, if you are disciplined, and if you practice, you will definitely get better. And it's just like, for me this summer, I started bachata lessons, and I am going to figure this out and show you, if you're ready. This is footage of me dancing. So let's see if it plays. So yes, that's me dancing. That actually is not me at all. I think that little baby is probably better than I am at dancing. But the one thing that I've been taking these classes and I keep showing up and I keep practicing. And so my instructors say that, in time, I'm really going to become a great dancer. And hopefully they're right. And the same is true if you keep showing up, if you're disciplined and committed and you keep practicing, you'll definitely become a better writer. And I'll dare say, definitely a great writer. So, what I'm going to do is give you some tools today that'll help you in that. And what we're going to talk about are the 3 common mistakes. These are things that I see all of the time, almost daily, in writing that people make that you can definitely improve on. So you won't have those. We'll talk about sentence structure and we're going to talk about paragraphing. All right. But before we do any of that, I do have a few housekeeping rules and guidelines here. And I see that you definitely see on here that a lot of you have discovered the chat function. So definitely be sure to conversate there with each other and converse with me and all. But if you have questions, what I want you to do is utilize the question section of this platform. So if you scroll down, you'll see below the slides, there's an opportunity right there where you can type in a question. So put your questions there and I'll answer them at the end of this. And that way they don't get hidden in the chat and we'll make sure that we get all of them answered. Hopefully we will have the time to answer them tonight. If not, I will definitely answer them another time, get in touch with you with that. I also want you to participate. We will have a few quizzes for you to, like I said, participate in the chat. I see you chatting already. We'll ask you to put answers to the quizzes in the chat, all of that fun stuff. And definitely stay to the end of this session because I have some great opportunities and great offers and announcements for all of you at the end of this. But I do know that it is a lot of information we're going to go over. And you might not get everything at once. The great thing is each person that has registered, you will receive a link to a replay in the next couple of days. So you'll be able to replay this and get that information. All right. So are we all ready to get started? Let's see who's still with me. Who's excited? I see Sheila says she is, Tabrina is, Woody is, Thomas is, Michelle is, Latanya is. All right, everybody's still with me and ready. So let's go over the 3 common mistakes. These 3 common mistakes I see, as I said, almost daily. And in fact, this week alone, I was editing a document at work that was riddled with all 3 of them. All 3 of them. So it's common. And it's common, right? Because a lot of these things we learn in elementary school, and a lot of us don't see it again. And we're expected to remember these things and write. So I'm going to go over some of those. And the most common one that I see business professionals make all the time is misusing commas. Who knows how to use commas? Who has a problem with commas sometimes? I see Woody says it's his worst enemy. Yes. Commas can be tricky. And commas can be deadly. Kanita says she has trouble with them too. As you see, the difference commas can make. You can either eat and have a wonderful dinner with your grandmother, or grandma can be dinner, which is terrible, right? None of us want to do that. So I have the first pop quiz for everyone. Look at these sentences right here. Which sentence do you think uses the comma correctly? So type your answer in the chat. Which one do you think uses it correctly? Okay, we got one answer. We got some answers here. Okay, keep them coming in. We've got a few A's, we got a few B's. Somebody said all 3. We got some A's, some B's. All right, some A's. Let's see. Someone said none. The actual answer is B. She was quite upset, comma, although she had won the Pulitzer. Now, why do you think that's the correct answer? Well, we're going to get into that so you can see why it is. So, everybody that got that, pat yourself on the back. Hopefully, you know why it is. And if you don't, that's okay. We'll go over it. So, what we'll talk about here are these are when not to use a comma. Okay. You don't want to use a comma to separate the subject from the verb. We have an 18-year-old resident in California is considered an adult. Who knows what the subject is of that sentence? Okay, 18-year-old, it's actually resident, right? So resident is the subject, and this verb in this is considered, right? So we don't want the comma to separate that. Right, is the verb. So we don't want it to separate that. Another thing we don't want is to use a comma between two verbs or verb phrases in a compound predicate. We laid out our music and snacks and began to study. Okay, because what we did, right, is we is a subject. We laid out our music and our snacks, and we began to study. So we don't want the comma there. We don't want the comma between two nouns, noun phrases, or noun clauses in a compound subject or compound object, because again, that separates it, right, from it either separates it from the verb or it separates it from the subject. In this one, we have the music teacher from our high school and the receptionist at my job are married. We don't want it there because it's the music teacher is married and the receptionist is married, right? They're married to each other. Then we look at the next one, which I think was one of the options on your quiz. Jeff told me the job was still available, comma, and the manager wanted to interview me. Why it shouldn't be there is because Jeff told me that the job was still available, and Jeff told me the manager wanted to interview me. So both of those is what Jeff said. Then the last one is we don't put a comma after the main clause when a dependent clause follows. So in the first example, the cat scratched at the door while I was eating. We don't put it there because it's still while I was eating is dependent on, it tells when the cat scratched at the door, right? However, and this was the correct answer in your quiz, we do use a comma in cases of extreme contrast, and it is, she was quite upset, although she had won the Pulitzer. Because usually when you win a Pulitzer Prize, you're not upset. You're pretty excited, right? I know I definitely would be. So that is what we have with commas. And there are definitely ways that I know that you're probably saying, well, these are how you don't use a comma. How do you use a comma? And there are a lot and a lot and a lot. And unfortunately, we cannot cover all of those in an hour. But the good news is that starting next year in 2021, hopefully, I will have a writing course where we'll get definitely into more details with this and you can learn all of those wonderful things. So stay tuned for more information about that. Now, we are going to move on to subject-verb agreement. Here's another mistake I often see. So, the basic rule is the singular subject takes a singular verb, right? Pretty simple. A plural subject takes a plural verb. Pretty simple. But it still gets kind of confusing for many people. Why do you think that is? I think it's because of all the words that are added in there And sometimes people aren't sure exactly what the subject is and if the subject is singular or plural. So, what we'll talk about are 10 rules of verb subject agreement. The first one is a subject will come before a phrase beginning with of. So, an example I have is my memories of my ex boyfriend have faded. Okay, so see, memories is a subject because it comes before of, and therefore it is plural. So, it gets the plural form of has, which is have faded. Okay, so I'm going to take a moment because I see that I have a few questions. Okay, someone asked when you use a semicolon, and we actually will get into a little bit of that. Um, we'll get into that a little bit later, so stay tuned. Okay, so going back to the rules of a subject verb agreement, the next rule is that two singular subjects connected by or neither or require a singular verb. And an example that I have for that is neither a hot dog nor movie popcorn is good for you. See how both of those are singular. The next one is the verb in an or neither or sentence agrees with the noun or pronoun closest to it. So, another example I have for that, and by reading this, I'm sure you can tell that it's dinner time and I'm hungry. Either homemade croissants, which you see is plural, or a slice of pie, and a slice of pie is singular. So it's going to take the singular verb, and this that I would say has as many calories as that burger. So eat all the croissants and all the pie because they don't have as many calories. That's the lesson in that. But no, really, it's looking for the closest that you have to that. Okay. And also, I see we have more questions coming in. I'm actually going to see if we hold off on this. If you have questions, just put them down in the box and we'll get to them at the end. Okay. So the next one is that, let's see, which one did we get to? Because now I got distracted. Okay. As a general rule, use a plural verb with two or more subjects when they are connected by and, because that's bringing them together and making them plural. So if I said, my cat and dog are the best of friends, it's two of them. So they're combined one. So and is like a plus, right? So 1 plus 1 equals multiple equals 2. Sometimes the subject is separated from the verb, such as by such words as along with, as well as, besides, not, etc. And these, a lot of these are prepositions. Does anybody remember prepositions? We'll talk about that a little later too. But these words and phrases are not part of your subject. So when you see those words and you see them starting a phrase, know that that's not going to be a part of what your subject is. So ignore those when you're looking to see what verb you should use. An example that I give that hopefully is easy for you to remember, the sentence I'm coming up with is Michael B. Jordan, along with his fan club, is expected to arrive at any minute. And I wish this were true. But it's easy for me to remember that the along with his fan club, which is a lot of people, doesn't really count to it because he is my celebrity crush, so it's all about Michael B. Jordan. So if you remember that anytime you see Michael B. Jordan in a sentence, it'll be all about him. So you will use the singular verb. And that's probably not true for everyone, but that is true for me. So the next set of rules is in sentences beginning with here or there, the true subject follows the verb. So an example for that is here sits the train leaving for Naperville, which is my hometown in Illinois. So here sits is plural because train that follows it is singular. All right. Then you use a singular verb with distances, periods of time, sums of money to when you're because those are all considered one unit. So think of like if you're saying the 80s was the best decade, which is factual, right? But also because the 80s, even though it has an S and it sounds plural, it is a period of time. So we treat it as singular. The next rule is with words that indicate portions, the noun after of determines if the verb is singular or plural. And so I'm going back to food and I'm thinking of pie. I guess I really need to have some pie, but all of the pie is gone. Is used because I'm saying pie, which is singular. If I said all of the pies, then it would be are gone. So how are we doing with this? Everybody getting this? Anybody a little confused? Let me know in the chat. Is everybody still there? Yes, we got a yes. Things are going good. Ernie's getting it. Great. All right. So, yes, Sabrina's there. Yes, we're all good. Okay, great. Yes, it is a lot, Vera, that we're going over. But like I said, there is going to be a replay. So you guys can get all of this and hopefully play it back. And if you get one thing, that'll help you, right? So the final rule for subject-verb agreement is the word were replaces was in sentences that express a wish or are contrary to fact. So I always think of, and I think of this probably every Monday when I have a case of the Mondays, I think of the song Manic Monday. Who knows that song? Who loves that song? I sing it every day, but well, every Monday. And some days that aren't Mondays feel like Mondays. Yes, the Bengals, I love it. But they got it wrong in this song because it says, I wish it was Sunday. And it should be, I wish it were Sunday, right? Because it is expressing a wish. Just like if I said, I wish it were Friday, which we are almost there, everyone. So, yay, you're almost there. So, that is it for verb subject agreement. We have reached kind of the halfway mark. I am going to look at you all and put my camera on so you can see me and I can check in. How is everybody doing? I know we've gotten a lot, right? We're going through a lot. Great. Regina's doing great. Yes, yes. I see, Kanita, you were singing before with me. Great. So we're all still there. We're all hanging in. We're all getting this. Remember, if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not, there is a replay. So you will get this again. And remember, if you have any questions, go into that question feature, drop them down there, and I will get to them for you. All right. So now I'm going to go back to my slides because we are ready to rock and roll with clauses, which has nothing to do with Santa Claus. But I think I saw today or yesterday that we are only 15 weeks away from Christmas. So yay, maybe, I don't know. Some people, some I'm like, oh my goodness, maybe too, yay, that means 2020 is almost over. But clauses are going to be a little easier. So you ready? Because all we're going to talk about are two different types of clauses. There's a dependent clause, which must be joined to another to avoid sentence fragments. So it's not a complete thought, right? So if I said to the grocery store, what about the grocery store? Who's going to the grocery store? What's happening with the grocery store, right? So that's a dependent clause. But an independent clause can be a sentence, it can stand alone, or it can be two independent clauses or multiple independent clauses combined. So an independent clause has these three components. They have a subject, they have an action or a predicate, they express a complete thought, and two clauses are joined with a semicolon. And I see that my slides have not been updated, and there is a mistake on here. Who sees it and can tell me? You get 5 points. Anybody? Yeah, it should be. It has an action or predicate, right? The S is missing, and I updated it and it didn't work on here. Sorry about that. But going back to Woody's question that he had about when to use semicolons, we're not going to talk a lot about them, but here's an example of when you use it when you're combining two independent clauses. So if you said, I ran home, I'm trying to think of one on the fly. I ran home, semicolon, it was raining outside, something like that, right? That's going to join it, and you would use a semicolon there. Or you could say, I ran home because it was raining outside. So those work for that. All right, so that is really all that I have for clauses. Now we're going to talk about why it's important to know what an independent clause is, because we want to avoid run-on sentences. Run-on sentences are run on and on and on and on and on and can be difficult, right? And here is an example right here of a run-on sentence. Is a comma splice happens when a comma rather than a semicolon, so that's that semicolon again, has been used to join independent clauses. So it's saying Kelly likes to cook. It should be semicolon, she makes chicken every day. Okay? Another example is a fused sentence that mashes two main clauses together with no punctuation. And here's one. Mary likes dogs. She has a beagle. This hurts my head. I don't know. Anybody else there? And I've seen it. I've seen these things in things that I've edited. And it's like, where's the punctuation? I have to stop reading. I've actually seen it. I'm in a group where I see posts like that, and I'm like, I can't go on. I just literally like have a headache. Can't do it. So the next one, this word is fun to say. Has anybody ever seen it before? Woody's crying. Are you still on the whole sentence being mashed together? That makes me cry. Okay. So both, yes. So this word, the last one that we're talking about is polysyndeton. So, and I've seen it written, but saying it's kind of fun. Try saying it fast a lot of times. To me, what this refers to is when you're using more conjunctions than you need. It's when you listen to a 3 or 4-year-old tell you a story, right? They would say a sentence like this: we went to the park and we ate dinner and we got ice cream. And when it got dark, we chased fireflies. And then we did this. And then we did this. And then we did this. Yes, Kenita despises when people use multiple ands because it's going on and on and on and on and on. And you're like, when are you going to stop? And you definitely don't want that in your writing because it's going to turn people off. So you want to know not to use those. You want to know, we went to the park, period. We ate dinner. And after maybe we ate dinner, comma, and afterwards we got ice cream, period. And when it got dark, we chased fireflies. Break it up, make it interesting. Don't make people run away from you when they see your run on sentences. All right, so that is run on sentences. Now we get into the fun stuff that you learned in elementary school with sentence structure. So the first one is, how many of you remember all of the parts of speech? How many of you remember those? Shoot me some of them in the chat here. How many parts of speech are there? Pronoun, verb, yep, those are some. Woody, you're not too old to remember. Come on, you got some. Who else? A noun, good. How many of them do you think there are? Noun, adjective, verb, adjective. All right. Let's see. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 parts of speech. And those are, see if it all starts coming back to you. A noun, which is a person, place, or thing, right? A pronoun, which is used in place of a noun or a noun phrase to avoid repetition. So you don't have, the school that I went to when I was 5 was the same school that I went to when I was 8. At my school, I enjoyed gym class and eating lunch. I had lots of friends at my school. So instead of saying school, school, school over and over, you can use a pronoun for school, right? It. The school I went to when I was 5 was the same school I went to when I was 7. It was the place I enjoyed eating lunch and talking to my friends, things like that to mix it up. Okay, an adjective describes, modifies, or gives more information about a noun or a pronoun. So adjectives go with nouns and pronouns. Then you have your verb, which shows action or a state of being. And then you have your adverb, which modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. And it tells things like how often, when, where. And I also think to add to that, to what extent, too, it tells. Then you have your preposition, which shows the relationship of a noun or pronoun to another word. And it often triggers what we call the prepositional phrase, which we won't get into tonight, but definitely you'll see later, and as you practice and get into these, how that is helpful. Then your conjunctions, which join, and it doesn't make you think of, what is it? Is it the Schoolhouse Rocks? I always hear the songs in my head, which actually is a great way to learn the parts of speech and to learn pretty much anything that you learned in elementary school. I highly recommend it. When I taught adults composition class, we watched the videos and they loved it and got it. Yeah, conjunction function. Definitely. I loved it. So conjunctions join two words, ideas, phrases together and show how they are connected. And then you have your interjection. You have your words like, whew, I'm so glad this is almost over, right? I hope none of you are saying that. OMG, oh my goodness, ugh. All of those are your interjections. They're words or phrases that express strong emotion. Okay, so those are our parts of speech. Yes, they show excitement and emotion, right, Vera? So now I'm sure all of you are using those interjection words right now. You're, whew, ugh, OMG, oh my goodness, because we're going to talk about sentence diagramming. Yay! How many of you remember sentence diagramming? It is a pictorial representation of grammatical structure of a sentence. And we do have people that remember it. Yay! So I'm going to ask you actually to take a pop quiz. It's going to be an easier one though. Who remembers sentence diagramming? Let's see how many of these we have. Yes, it was a nightmare. B, you've blocked it from your memory. Or C, yes, and you love it. Let's see, what are people saying? B. A lot of people have blocked it. Do we have any C's out there? Anybody? I see B's. At least I don't see people having nightmares, right? And I hope I'm not triggering anything. And Vera has all kinds of questions about it. So we are going to jog those memories for those of you that don't remember and hopefully not scare others. This is sentence diagramming. Here's my sentence. He knew she was talking about him. Okay? So then, and I'm going to mix it up for you guys a little and put me down here so you can see a little bit of me. And I'm going to take a little drink of water. As we talked about, he is a pronoun, and this is the subject we have. He goes with the verb knew. See how those are broken up? He knew what, and it's asking the what is the direct object, which we're not going to get into tonight, but see how that is broken up because it's a whole nother phrase. It's what kind of phrase is it? Let's see if anybody remembers. She was talking about him. What kind of phrase is that? Is it a dependent phrase or an independent phrase? Do you have any responses? Independent, right. It is independent. Good, Iris. And let's see, dependent. Nope, it's actually independent. It is the direct object here, but see, remember, it has the subject, it has the action, and so that's really all it needs. And it's a complete thought. She was talking about him, but it serves as one unit to talk about what he knew. So see how it's attached to this diagram and broken up this way? Because she is, again, a subject, was talking is the verb, about is a preposition, and then him is a pronoun, what she was talking about. So that can be fun, right? It's tricky, but also here is why it is important. And I actually gonna go back to this so you see all of it, why it is important to know, because it forces you to identify logical connections between different parts of sentences. It helps you determine proper punctuation. It puts grammar to use. It lays the logic of the sentence bare and reveals any problems. So it's actually a tool that I use a lot of times when I'm editing and I come across really difficult sentences that I'm like, well, there's all kinds of different phrases in here, and I'm not sure where the punctuation should go. And I'm not sure if it all makes sense together. So what can I take out? So I will, to this day, still diagram sentences. And if any of you want to know more about it, I put down here, there's a website. It's www.letsdiagram.com, where this amazing woman, she came up with this software where you can put in, and actually I created that diagram through using the software that she has. So she has all kinds of lessons devoted to just sentence diagramming, showing you how to do it and letting you use the software. So I think it's pretty cool. I'm sure all of those that have blocked it out of their memory and all of those that are probably rocking back and forth right now want me to move on past this. So I will, but I'll let you know that it's still definitely a great thing to practice, so you can use it and help you in your punctuation, help you make sure that your sentences make sense. Okay, so we are on the home stretch. We're talking about the last thing that I'm going to talk to you guys too about tonight. This is paragraph structure. So let me check in one more time and see. How's everybody doing now? Okay, people are help. This is a great help. People are doing very good. They're hanging in there. Everybody getting all of this or getting something? Still great. Good. Awesome. Great. All right. So we will talk about paragraphs because that is definitely what we all usually do, right? In our emails, in our writings, in our blogs, and all of the things we put together, paragraphs. And so what you're doing when you're writing paragraphs and when you're writing because you want to make sure that everything is cohesive, that it makes sense, right? And this is the connection of all of the sentences that you're putting in here, that you're grouping to one another in ways that this paragraph becomes one unified whole and it dictates the flow of what you're writing, the flow of what you're telling people. All right, so why we want to be cognizant of making sure that our paragraphs make sense is because usually, and I'm pretty sure most of you that are here aren't only writing in your journals or in your diary, right? You're writing for someone else to read. You want someone else to understand what you're writing. So, in what you're writing, you have to think of the reader. You have to read your ideas objectively and think of how they're going to sound to them, to your reader. You want to put yourself in that reader's shoes. And your readers have expectations that usually begin with that first sentence. And here's an example that I give. If you start your paragraph with a question, your readers are going to expect what? An answer, right? They're not going to want to read this whole thing where you just ask a question and so what does that mean? What are they going to get out of it? So keep all of those things in mind as you're putting your paragraphs together. So there are three important features to cohesive writing. They are the known new contract, meta discourse, and parallelism. So the first one is that known new contract. And this is where it relates to what the reader knows and what the reader expects. It's kind of like a flow. It's each sentence, each succeeding sentence is connected to what has gone before. So you kind of look at it as stair steps. It's stacking one on top of the other. You're getting information. So let's look at this paragraph here. It's basically a single cell thunderstorm is the lone thunderstorm that forms on a hot, humid day. So we're learning something new. Well, we're learning about a thunderstorm, and we're learning that this thunderstorm develops when it's hot and humid. So now the next sentence goes into it's talking about the heat and the humidity, right? The heat and the humidity of the day is the only trigger for the what? The thunderstorm that we've already talked about. So now we know about a thunderstorm. We know that it forms because it's hot. We know that the humidity and the heat is what triggers this thunderstorm. So then we talk about the storm again. This type of storm, we're still building on the storm, right? This type of storm forms in an environment with little difference in the wind speed and direction or wind shear between the surface and cloud level. Why? Because we already learned that these thunderstorms are triggered by what? Heat and humidity. Okay, so see how that builds on everything? So you want to do that when you're following this to build on information. And especially if you're giving a lot of information that can be hard to understand, that you would need details, make sure that you map it out and build on it so it's easier for the reader to follow and comprehend it all. The next one is meta discourse. And when I think of meta discourse, I think of meta tags. They're what you use when you're writing a blog. They're what you use for your anything on your website, because you want to signal to people, you want to signal to those search engines what this is going to be about, what your reader should interpret from this, what people are going to go to your site to see and learn about. It's the same for hashtags that you put in. When you do a hashtag search, it's kind of a meta tag, right? Because that's what you're looking, and you expect to read something on whatever the hashtag is you looked for. So these are signals or guideposts that help your reader interpret the writer's message. And there are examples. Meta-discourse signals are among the class of connectors known as conjunctive adverbs. So what is a conjunctive adverb? Conjunctive adverbs join words, phrases, or clauses to clarify what the writer is saying. They also help move your flow, right? It creates a smooth transition from one idea to another. So here are the things that they signal. They signal addition, words like furthermore, likewise, also, in addition. They signal time, meanwhile, in the meantime, afterwards, previously. They signal contrast, however, instead, on the contrary, on the other hand, in contrast, rather, they reinforce something further, indeed, in particular, above all, in fact. They summarize, thus, then, in conclusion. There's concession there, nevertheless, yet, still, at any rate, after all, of course. They signal a result. Therefore what? So, consequently, as a result, of course. And then there's opposition, namely, for example, right, which we talked about before. For example, what? It's cluing that you're going to give an example. For instance, that is, in other words. Okay, so the last one is parallelism. Now, this is used when you want to be fancy. It's a device that great writers, seasoned writers use for enhancing their style. It's repeated grammatical elements, often combined with repeated words. And so you see, just looking at this paragraph right here, you can pull them out right away, right? You see every country, every industry, and every business. And then you see it again, every country, every industry, and every business. So this is letting you know, and it's definitely emphasizing this every country, every industry, every business. And it's letting you know that this is important. This is the emphasis to this. This is driving home the point that I'm making with this. So this is a great tool to use occasionally. You don't want to use it all the time because then you sound like that young child again, repeating himself over and over and over again. So you want to use it sparingly. You want to use it for emphasis to make that strong point. And so I am happy to tell you that you did it. You've reached the end of this. Give yourself a round of applause. I'm going to take this off and show my face, hopefully not scare anyone. So congratulations. Are there any questions? I'm going to look down here and see if there are any new questions. Okay. So, and if you have any, come down here and type them in the question section. Okay, I see there was a question in the Kelly likes to cook sentence. Couldn't you use a period to separate it as well? Yes, because they're two independent clauses. So it would be Kelly likes to cook, period. She makes chicken every day. But if you want to, and that's the whole thing of using the semicolon, because sometimes you want to make like your sentences longer. You want to have variation of sentence length in what you write. You want to mix it up so that your writing isn't boring, so it keeps your audience. So yeah, so you can do it with a period to break it up, or you can combine it with a semicolon, but it's a semicolon, not a comma, because they're both independent clauses. Okay, and I have no more questions in here. Let's see. Oh, we have another one. Do you have good reference books you use when writing? I was supposed to bring them with me so I could show them to you right on the screen, but I do have my shelf right here, so hold on a quick second. And I cannot see it. I do not see where my copy is, so it looks like I probably have it in my room when I was doing writing. But I do recommend the Chicago Manual Style is like the Bible that I use for writing. It is for any writing that you do for magazines or for creative writing. Now, if you're writing for a lot of like PR work, if you're writing for newspapers and everything, they use the Associated Press Style Guide. So that's one. There's definitely, I love Grammar Girl. So anything you can find from Grammar Girl is great. And definitely just look for all different kinds of things. I get all kinds of books occasionally. And what I'm gonna do too is as I read them, I'll definitely review some of them in those newsletters and everything. So stay connected and I'll review some of those for you. But there's a lot of really great books out there that I definitely recommend. Do you always use a semicolon before however? Woody's asking. No, you do not always use a semicolon um, before however. So you can use a semicolon, however, it's not necessary. And if you're joining two independent clauses that are not connected exactly to each other, if that makes sense. So if you're saying, um, let's see, I'm trying to think of an example for you on the fly. I haven't had dinner. However, no, you would still use a semicolon there. But so that's a tricky one. It's a stomper. But you don't always need it because if it's not joining two independent clauses, and that again, right, you'd go back to your diagramming and make sure that both on either side are indeed are independent of each other. And you definitely, when you're starting it, it would be however, comma. So that's the answer to that. I am going to, now that you've stumped me, I'm going to come up with a sentence and send it to you, Woody, of when you wouldn't use it. But that's a great one. Thank you. Quotations always before the period. No, that's one of my big pet peeves. Quotation marks come after the period usually. And that is the only time, and I did a whole writing on this, and I wish I had like a board so I could write on it and show you. In other countries, in England, they do use the punctuation outside of the quotation marks. However, in our country, they're included unless it is a question and the information that's in the quotation marks is not a part of that question. An example, why does she always say thank you? So the question mark would be outside of why does she always say thank you would be in the quotation marks, but the question mark would be outside of it because thank you is not the question. Thank you is what you're asking of what she always says. However, She always says, thank you. The period would be inside of the quotation marks. So yes, but I see that all the time, and it is one of my pet peeves. And they do it on Jeopardy all the time. And I had to check, like it really frustrated me because I saw it and I was like, well, maybe in Canada they do it that way. I'm not sure. But I had to check AP style guides and updates and everything to make sure. I was like, did they update this and I missed it? I wasn't sure. Okay. So, but yes, I hope that helps. Are there any other questions before I close this out? Anybody else have a question? Any other comments? All right. Well, I am going to go back to my slides because if you have any other questions or think of something later, anything, and you need to contact me, here is all of my contact information. I have my website right here. You can email me and I'll definitely respond back to you. You can follow me on Facebook. Here's the Facebook page where we also have all kinds of activities. We even do every Wednesday night from 9 to 10 Eastern time, we do writing sprints. And I know Miri's on here and she participates in those every week, where it's just keeping you accountable. We come on, it's a Zoom meeting, and we write for an hour. So come join one of those, learn all about those. And I definitely have posts and different things like that. And then I am on Instagram. So be sure, if you're not following me, look me up there and follow me there. Okay, great. I'm glad you guys have gotten information. So